Welcome to Torrential Riff Visual Vodcast Episode 3. Today's special guest is Stayce Roberts from the band The Brave. Stayce talks about how they got signed to Pakaderm Records and what it was like working in the studio with John Dino Elefante and J.R. McNeely. He also talks about stories about Tony Palacio and David Bach from the band Guardian, also Larry Worley from the band Fear Not. We go through all 12 songs off the newest release by The Brave, Evie's Little Garden. We also talk about how Michael Sweet's touring band was formed. Stay tuned till the end to hear something special. All right, let's do this. Welcome to Torrential Riff. Today's special guest is Stayce Roberts from the band The Brave. Stayce, thank you for taking the time and answering some questions today.
Absolutely. Glad to be here, man.
Welcome. My first question is, how did you get signed to Pakaderm Records with John and Dino Elefante?
It was about, I think it was 1990, and anybody that was in Christian bands back then, everybody knows that if you wanted that Mutt Lange sound, the producer of Def Leppard, if you wanted that big rock sound that was so prevalent in the 80s, Pakaderm was the place you wanted to be. Primarily because John Elefante was the previous singer for Kansas,
right,
and a big-time believer and a phenomenal singer, still one of my favorites of all time. And so, we kind of put it out there that everyone knew that's where we wanted to be, but I think a year before they actually realized who we were, me and our keyboard player at the time drove down to Pakaderm and gave them a tape of ours, but I don't think they ever really listened to it. But they were very gracious. I got to meet Dino and John that day. We went right into their studio. They were very, very cool. And I didn't know that was kind of a normal thing until we got signed and saw bands showing up at the studio bringing their cassettes in, But the way we got signed was we were from the Antelope Valley, which is about 45 minutes north of Los Angeles. They were all the way down in Seal Beach, which is down in Orange County. And we were playing a concert at the fairgrounds with a band called Seventh Seal.
Okay.
I
remember
there were a lot of Christian. Yeah, they were a really cool band. Had a cool singer, friends of ours, and they told us that Pakaderm was pursuing them, and we were excited for them. I mean, at the time I owned a music store in town with a partner of mine named Alan and my now wife Janet. And so all the musicians, I knew everybody because they all came into our music store and we sold them gear and stuff like that. And we did gigs together. And this was not like now. Nowadays, to go to a show, you're lucky if you can see anybody. But back then, there was a band every 5 feet, right? So it was a very healthy environment for musicians, and everybody could play and everybody could sing. And so they told us we were doing a show together at the fairgrounds, and between them and us, we were always selling out the fairgrounds. So whether we played with them or if they did shows with other people, we were two really popular bands. Mm-hmm. My band at the time was called Fax, so Faxx with two X's.
Yep.
And our thing was the truth will set you free, and so we're just preaching about the facts. And Seventh Seal, they were headlining the gig. We were opening up for them. Well, when we opened up, we were told that day that John Elefante might be there, but we had heard that kind of stuff before, and we didn't really think too much of it. So we had really big courses before we even got a record deal, so there wasn't a whole lot of fine tuning John and Dino had to do on our vocal thing because we were singers. But we closed our show with Carry On My Wayward Son. We always did. We were big Kansas fans. We loved John's voice, even though that was Steve Walsh's voice. I liked fight fire with fire and play the game tonight just as good as anybody else did, right? Yeah. Well, come to find out when we closed the show, and we had a really good show that night, Seven Seal comes on and plays. I never saw John until we were tearing down our gear, and I look over and Seven Seal's backstage, and there's John Elefante. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, JR, one of the guys in the band, who was a friend of mine, he knew how much me in particular, because The Brave was founded by me and Malcolm, but it was really my baby. I was a main songwriter, and I was the guy in practice that would, get things rolling. So he came and got me and walked over there, and I went over and I met John. He was very gracious and said he really loved the band, and said, I really like that song you closed with. And I started laughing. And man, it was just such a highlight for me, right? And I walked away and I thought that would be it. But a week later, I get a phone call at my music store, and it's Ron Gollner, the A&R guy for Pakaderm.
Okay.
And he said that John really liked what he saw, and he wanted to kind of keep an eye on us. Well, in the interim, prior to us getting signed, this is probably, I don't know, April of 1990.
Okay.
We start playing shows, and we kept ending up. A buddy of mine named Dave Priest put a show together with us in Guardian. I was a huge Guardian fan.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I loved Stryper, but Tony Palacios was and it still is one of my favorite guitar players of all time.
Yeah, he's amazing.
And around that time, I went to the NAMM show. We were unsigned. First three people I see coming walking into the NAMM show was Michael Sweet, Tony Palacios, and Oz Fox. I go out and get a picture with them. Little did I know that a year later I would know all three of them pretty well, right? So anyways, there were all these shows that were going on in California, and John and Dino had this habit of asking everybody that would go out and see the shows, did you see anybody good? And everybody would go, well, there was this band or that band, but there was this one band named Fax. Well, John had already seen us.
Right.
So everyone that would come back, Guardian came back, and they go, hey, man, did you guys do any shows this weekend? Yeah, we did. We played with a band called Fax. How were they? Oh, they were killer. You got to hear these guys. We had a great singer, James Salters. We had two shredding guitar players, me and Freddie, and a great rhythm section with my brother Randy and Malcolm Paris on bass, who's still with us today. And so they kept getting this feedback from anybody that would go out and see these shows in California that we were the band to come see. We played with Holy Soldier. We played with, some festivals, some big ticket things where there were a bunch of bands that were playing, but our name would always find its way back to, including JR. JR was at a show. Comes back. He was an engineer at Pakaderm, young engineer. That's how he was cutting his teeth. Now he's got a couple Grammys, and he just mixed our last record. I think he mixed John's last record too, John LaFonte's. And JR comes back and he goes, man, there was a band called Fax. You got to hear them. So they just kind of laughed and they said, okay, we got to send somebody out to one of their shows. So Ron Gollner showed up at our show. We were playing at the Roxy, which is one of the big clubs out in LA. That if you were gonna get signed out here, you had to play the Whiskey, Gazzarri's, the Roxy, and we had a killer night. So Ron Gollner came backstage and he says, I'm going to tell the guys that I came and saw you. And a couple days later, Dino called me and he set up a showcase. Now, for any of the bands that you ever interview, from Fear Not to anybody, they're all going to have their own version of these showcases with John and Dino, because let me tell you, it was like sitting in front of the Godfather, but two of them. So they rented this warehouse down in Orange County, and we showed up. They said, you guys come and play just like it's a full-blown gig. So we were dressed up, our hair was all mocked up, and
yep,
we had all of our gear.
Look back in the day.
Yeah, and so we went in and we set up, and in comes Ron and John and Dino. And they sat there, they said hi, they were very nice. But then, dude, you could have heard a pin drop. They didn't say anything. So they were just giving us the Italian mob look, and they were very good at it. And they said, play us some songs. So we played the first one. We were spot on. After it was done, no clapping, no nothing. It was like, next. And so we did this for 5 or 6 songs, but we got really into it. We really, we got into our groove. It's because we practiced 5 nights a week, so it wasn't hard for us. And when it was done, we went and we sat down with them and we talked for maybe a half hour, and they asked us some questions and stuff, and that was it. We left, and so we were like, did we do good? Did they like us?
You had no clue. They didn't.
No, they gave you nothing. They didn't give you. I think it was just an Italian thing that John and Dino liked to do. But this was probably on a Wednesday or Thursday. But that following weekend, I get a call at the store from Dino, and we had a long conversation. And he says, we want to do this.
Nice.
We really like what we saw. You guys have good hearts. They had followed us long enough to know they really never signed people just, hey, that band's really good, let's send them a contract. It was never like that. They vetted you. So they wanted to know people that knew you. They wanted to know, what kind of people you were. And I appreciated that. But I couldn't get over the fact that I was the guy on the phone talking with them. I was like, this is John and Dino, man. And they said they wanted to come down to my store and check it out. So we picked a night, and they came down and took us all to dinner. They came to my store, checked it out, and Dino was like a kid in a candy store because I carried a lot of the lines that he wanted. I sold him a couple of 5150s. And so he would buy gear from me, power amps and things of that, stuff like that. And we went to Marie Callender's and we sat and we talked for probably 2.5, 3 hours.
Wow.
They had 4 or 5 songs that they were interested in letting us hear to see if we wanted to do them, but they also knew that I was a pretty solid writer.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciated that. They didn't say you're not writing anything. They just said, who's the main writer? And I said, it's me. And so John said, well, I'd like for you to come down and, we'll spend some time at my house and we'll do some writing. But we didn't really write from the ground up. We go down, we sign the deal. And one of the ways they vetted us was they tried James. They wanted to see how James worked in the studio. And James had this wonderful voice. A lot of, he had a break in his voice. It was really nice. He sounded a little bit like Klaus Meine from the Scorpions, but he had his own thing. And his phrasing was really good. We worked really hard on that, me and him together. Because when I met him, it wasn't like that. But through the songs that we had and that we developed, we were all getting better. But James had a really cool voice. And I knew that if John could spend some time with him, that, man, they could be really good, So we signed the deal. They bring James down and have him sing on a couple of praise albums. I think it was called Power Praise. I think that was it. Yeah, they Yeah, he went and sang on a couple songs there, and he'd bring them back and show them to us. So he was the first one in the studio with them.
Oh,
and he said he would come back and go, man, they worked me so hard. They worked me so hard, dude. And
John Elefante.
That was John Elefante, man. He was the man. And it's funny too, because once we got in the studio, I'm the one consistent thing that was always in the studio. So when people go, wow, this sounds a lot like John and Dino. And I said, well, I didn't waste my time there. I knew God had put me in a environment that would be conducive to me really learning the tricks of the trade.
Learn
right?
from the best.
Exactly. And they were the best. There was nobody like them. Everyone we played with wanted to be there. And we were just like, they would ask us questions, We were sitting there thinking we'd go and do these shows and we'd think people were going to want to know about the band. And they really want to know, hey, what's John like? What's Dino like? we were always gracious. And so anyways, once we got signed, we had agreed to do, we were originally going to do 5 albums.
Okay.
We'll never know what those 5 albums would have been, but I know they would have been great. But this is 1991.
Right.
Our album came out, I think, around September of 91. When we left, after we had done the album and we went on the road, which we'll get to in a minute, when we came back, everything had changed. Nirvana had come along.
Right.
So our style of music wasn't exactly, in vogue anymore. But once we were signed, they had told us they wanted to change our name. They didn't like Facts. And we're like, well, that's, okay, whatever. So some names were thrown up. We had tried, I think we had like Pride of Lions was an idea. We had 5 or 6 different things, but then one day Dino goes, you know what? How about the Brave? And we all everyone was there. The whole band was there. John and Dino were both there. And we just looked at each other and we all just kind of smiled and said, that's the one. That's it. So, and then Dino came up with the idea of calling the album Battle Cries, to which I asked him, do we need to write a song called that or no? And he says, no, don't worry about that. So anyways, they had 3 or 4 riffs that the night we went to Marie Callender's that they gave us on a tape and we listened to, but there were no vocals. There was just guitar riffs.
Yeah.
Dino was the one playing guitar. Now, me and Freddie were coming from a different place than Dino was. Dino was more 70s rock.
Yeah.
And me and Freddie cut our teeth. Freddie learned everything he knew from Stryper and me. He was only 15 at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I was 24 or 25 years old. I came from Randy Rhoads and Van Halen and Neil Schon and Jeff Watson and Brad Gillis. So all these other influences I had, it was kind of a mixed blessing because it was easy for me to pick up on what Dino was doing, but they weren't songs I ever would have written. Now these songs, what they turned into were All Together Now, If That Ain't Love, Ride With the Rhythm, Never Live Without Your Love. That one wasn't on the tape, but I think a finished version of that and actually that's Tony Palacios playing guitar on it, on Battle Cries. So they already had that one in the can. And Tears of a Broken Heart. Those were the ones that they had given, but there were no lyrics, no melodies, so we didn't know what they were going to sound like.
Right.
Had they been shown to us finished, we would have said, heck yeah, let's go with it. But we were kind of on the fence. We weren't. It wasn't really our style so much.
But you also,
but we were willing to work with it, right? But once they started fleshing them out, man, they started really turning into something. So once I heard James's melody line that John, took him in and did, then I loved them. I thought, yeah, these are going to fit really nicely. Then when I went to John's house and we started writing, we really were just fleshing out songs I'd already written. I'd already written Waiting. I'd already written Big World. I had the bones of Running All My Life. I had already written Just a Man. And so we sat down and we just worked through to come up with how they were going to go. And John really took them to the next level. I mean, he was at a way different. Back then, he's where I am about now, but he was only in his 30s. So he was already there.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't play keyboards. I was like, I do now, but I didn't then. But when I saw John doing it, I was like, I got to do that because I want to be able to find those voicings and stack things like that. So now it's part of my everyday thing, but back then it wasn't. I was just a guitar player.
Right. Well, I remember there being a cool story during the recording of Battle Cries with John Elefante on his way during the LA riots.
Riots, that's true, yeah.
So what's any story with that at all? Like,
I'm the only one with this story on Earth, except John's the only other one that knows this is true. I was at John's house, and this is before the album was recorded. We were working on Big World and Waiting, and John gets a phone call, and it was just me and him. All right, we're just sitting there. I think we're drinking a soda or something, and he had this little room that he had his keyboards in, and that's where he had fleshed out all the songs for whoever he was working with. In this case, it was us, and he gets a phone call, and he goes, "Excuse me, just a sec, Stayce." And he gets up, and now I've just met John, right? So I mean, I'm like,
yes,
nervous.
Mr. Elefante.
I'm like, yes, Captain, whatever you need. And he gets up and walks out of the room, and he comes back in, and he's kind of got a smirk on his face. He goes, "Man, that's weird." Now, mind you, he had just played me because we talked about Kansas a little bit.
Yeah.
He played me the original demo of Dust in the Wind, which is what they gave him to learn Dust in the Wind.
Okay.
No Robbie Steinhardt on it. It was just the guitar.
Right.
Now I play that perfectly, but I learned it because when I heard it, I go, "Wow, I never really heard it like that. That's beautiful," right? We just listened to this. He gets a phone call, walks away, and he comes back and he goes, "Oh, that's weird." And I go, "What's up?" And he goes, "You'll never believe who that was on the phone." I go, "What?" And he goes, "That was Toto. They were calling to see if I wanted to sing for the band." So that being said, I'm sitting there going, "Boy, that don't happen every day." I'm at the Singer for Kansas' house and Toto calls, right?
Right.
So the reason John got stuck in traffic the day of the riots, he had went down to try out for Toto.
Oh.
So he went and spent the day with them. They were all in there, Lukather, the Picaro brothers, David Page. He spent the whole day with them. On his way back, the cities are burning, right? So he's seeing all this stuff. Now he's got a darker complexion. He's driving a BMW, and he's a little nervous. And he said, he's seeing these people get drug out of their cars and stuff like that. And when he came back, he was so stressed out. I was at the studio the night he got back.
Yeah.
He came in, it was just starting to get dusk. And he was supposed to be back a little earlier, I seem to remember. But once he got there, me and Dino were in the studio, and I think my brother was there with me. And he came back, and he was scared. I mean, it was a really, really weird time. I think we were there for that week. And me and Dino and Randy had went over to some church to go see something. And the madness is just happening, kind of like this last couple of years we've had.
Yeah.
It was just nuts at the time. But yeah, that's the story behind that. So I was the only one there when Toto called, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that's how the album came about. They decided on the name Battle Cries. We went and took the world's worst picture of album covers that there's ever been.
Yeah, and if anybody's a fan of my show, I'm actually a new The Brave fan after 30 years.
Awesome.
Somehow your band got by me, and I think part of it was that, unfortunately, image was everything back then.
Oh, we had none.
I think I was at that point in time, I was starting to get into the heavier, like the Deliverance and the Vengeance. So I was going a little bit more in a heavier vibe back then. So you guys got by me. So it's
Yes.
actually been a really nice to after 30 years, it's always finding a gem. And I'm like, wow, this band is really great.
Well, it's like I'm looking at all the album covers you have behind you. We didn't have anything remotely close to even as cool as any of that.
Yeah.
And
Now,
so,
who did
and
the
that's how
packaging?
I
Was it?
don't really know. I mean, Pachyderm did it, but I think they kind of did it in house.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, because David Bach is one of the most gifted graphic guys that I had seen up to that point.
Yeah.
If you saw Dr. Jones and the Kings of Rhythm,
Yeah.
the album Miracle Mile,
Yeah.
David did all that, right?
Right.
And so once we found that out, we were like, we come off the road, and I said, man, I'm gonna ask Dave if he'll hook us up. So now when we're out on the road, we had seen this. We were in the middle of a snowstorm, pulling a 30-foot top line trailer going to the next gig, and we saw this little church across probably 2 miles of snow. We were going up in the I think we were in the Appalachian Mountains,
Mm-hmm.
and this little church was over there, and there was no snow around it, and it just blew us away. We thought, man, that's God's protection right there, right? So that image stuck in our head. So we thought, well, when we get back, what if we did something like, because we already had the Bones for Trust, so we were just putting that song together. Me and Freddie and Randy had written that song already. And so well, what if we call the album Trust? Because we always wanted to be kind of like Journey, never really had anything negative to sing about. We wanted to be positive.
Yeah. Yep.
It's funny because now, like when you hear this next album, Gravedigger, that we're finishing right now,
we'll get to that.
Yeah, it's a lot different lyrical. It's not so much hopeful. It's talking about the reality of we all die.
Yep.
Right. So I'm maybe I'm just in a different place in my life now, but good music, good message is what was important to us.
Yep.
So we thought, well, how about we call the album Trust, right? And had we done the 5 albums, we probably would have done Trust, Hope, Faith. We probably would have done things that were encouraging, right? Yep. But we came back off the road and we talked to Dave and we said, hey man, we've got this idea. We'd like to have this little church in the middle of nowhere and a tornado coming against it, but the church is standing strong. And it's just like that little church we saw in the Appalachian Mountains, Exactly. That's exact. And that David Bach did all of that. He goes, what do you want the logo to be in it? I said, no bandanas.
This week.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. I posted on Facebook. Cool. I think you saw it.
I saw it.
Yeah, it's definitely a different vibe than the first one. More of a blue.
Well, Stryper got lucky. Yeah. Stryper got lucky because they were smart enough to come up with what you're talking about, imaging up front.
Yeah. We
didn't have that. But the one thing we didn't want is they could go and do stripes whenever they want. We didn't want any more bandanas.
Right.
So we were like, please, whatever you do, David, no bandanas. He goes, what do you want the logo to be like? And we thought, well, because of a childlike faith, what about if you do our logo in crayon? And if you look inside there, did you get the black CD with the orange writing on it? Is it original?
Is there different ones?
Yes, there is. There's some. I think Girder has some out, and they're a different kind of thing. But that's David's original packaging right there.
Yeah, I haven't seen the new reissue for this. Is there?
Well, there's a reissue out somewhere, but I don't know if it's through Girder. I know Battle Cries is through Girder.
Yeah, that one I have.
This one, I'm not sure if it's through Girder or somebody else.
I'll try to track that down.
And it's just a silver disc, right?
Oh, okay.
So you have an original, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But then there's a second piece to the design. The inside cover, you notice that's a way better image than the Battle Cries picture, right?
Yes, much.
That came through Tony Palacios because I said, Tony, you know any photographers? And he goes, yeah, dude, Niels Lozauer. He did the first Van Halen record and all of the Ozzy Osbourne, and he did all of Guardian. And so we called Neil, and Neil took that picture. And the day before, Zakk Wylde was there.
Okay.
And he was on the same staircase that we're on right there. And so he shot those photos. And so now we had two different situations on our hands. We now had an image, but it wasn't the same people. Right. And music had changed.
Right.
So,
yeah. By that point, it was Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
The whole scene changed in the secular side of it.
It did.
But it was still, again, still the same band, just a little more bluesy, a little more raw kind of sound, down-tuned a little bit. You know?
3 of us were from the actual band, because what happened is when we came back, we had some creative differences, and James ended up leaving the band, and we didn't have a singer. So we weren't really worried about it because all of us sang. Now, I am going to say this, and as much as I love John and Dino and I respect them, I did never want to be the person behind the glass that John worked with on vocals, because I don't care how humble or meek John acts, he ain't going to sing it for you, right? And when you sit and he sings something to you and you're just hearing this angelic, I mean,
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody sing like John, because John doesn't sing loud, and yet it sounds loud. He can fill up a room with what he's singing, but he's not singing. This is the best tip he ever gave me, is he says, the thing, I go, how do you not blow out your voice? And he goes, well, the key is, do you blow out your voice when you're talking? And I go, no. And he goes, well, never sing louder than your speaking voice.
Well, it's interesting.
I thought, man, that's awesome. Now I can't do it. It's not there's a song called Eternal on this upcoming album where I'm trying to do it, and I'm starting to kind of tap into that. But man, he can do it all day.
Interesting.
He can do it, and he's got perfect pitch. His intonation is phenomenal. So you remember, there was no Pro Tools. I was at Pakaderm the day that they go, hey, we got this little 2-track thing, and it's called Pro Tools. It'll never take off, and now it's all the rage.
And what's the dynamic between Dino and John? Is Dino more the engineer? Is John more of the writing vocal side? Like, how do they work as a team?
Well, they're at different places musically. Dino's very much a guitar guy.
Okay.
John's very much a keyboard guy. I don't know if John's ever played guitar on anything else, but there's a lick on Trust that I let him play. I showed him what to play, and he played it, and it's actually on the record. I think it's on the River. Okay. After it breaks down, there's a little thing that goes, that's John. So that's his contribution to Guitar Heroes. But Dino, he's on a lot of stuff. I mean, I think he's on some of the Petra stuff he played. He's on some of the guitars on Battle Cries, Ride with the Rhythm. That's him playing the rhythm.
Oh, interesting.
So, because when we started fleshing out the songs, I'm like, I know what you're playing, but it's already there. Just leave it there. I mean, we're using the same amps. I don't care.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Now, all the leads, Dino wasn't a lead player, but he was a rhythm player, and he could track like nobody's business.
And I was going to say, one of my compliments when I reviewed Battle Cries, I had trouble telling the difference between you and what's the other guitar player?
Freddie.
Tony Palacios. And I think, wow, this sounds like Tony. But I'm like, he couldn't play leads on all of these. And then you had replied back, oh, no, that's me. This is Tony. This is Freddie. And
well, you're not the first person to say that.
That's a great compliment towards you.
And hey, believe me, I took it like that. Tony's still one of the best guitar players that ever walked the face of the planet.
Crazy.
And he doesn't pay me to say that.
He doesn't get enough, not respect, but enough acknowledgement on the quality player that he is and was and is.
In my opinion, if you read Michael Sweet's book, one of the only guitar players that he mentions is Tony Palacios, of people that he thought were just really, really good, right? Did that offend me? Absolutely not. I was coming up on Tony, but I wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
We jammed together several times. He came to my music store a couple of times, and we'd sit down and play. And I mean, the people would just gather around and listen. But Tony has one of the best feels, probably of anybody that I've heard. I mean, he's got a really wonderful vibrato. He's got long fingers, which kind of ticked me off. But when he got the gig with, I was there. Yeah, I was there the day he got the gig with Michael W. Smith. When he found out he was going to go on the road with Michael W. Smith. A lot of people don't know that Tony was the guitar player there for a while. But when we had done a show after James had left, and it was us and Guardian doing like an acoustic thing or something. Mm-hmm. I said, Tony, show me some of the stuff that you're playing. On the he was just like a big brother to me. I mean, he treated me so. He was a wonderful guy, and all of Guardian was very cool to us. But Tony in particular, we were really good friends at the time, and he was showing me some licks. I think I took 1 or 2 lessons from him, mm-hmm. And he would show you anything that you wanted to know. But man, the dude could just play. You could find him on YouTube right now, just sitting there wailing on somebody's software plugin, and he's just crushing it. I mean, I love his playing still, which is really saying something, because I got to tell you, I was always the guy that would end up talking to the guitar players.
Stayce, on Trust, I see that Larry Warley from Fear Not did background vocals. How did that come about?
Well, first off, what's up, Larry? Yeah, we're still friends after all these years. When we, the culture of Pakaderm, one of the things that was very unique, and I think the only other time that it's really happened like that was probably the Motown days in Detroit, where you had all these bands, one band's walking out and another band's walking in. That's how it was. John and Dino, I think, were doing like six, I think they had six artists a year that they were recording, and they would sign maybe 2 to 3 a year. Well, the band that got signed right after us was a band called Fear Not. So just before we got signed, I think X Center and Halo had just finished up.
Yeah.
And then Guardian had done, the Power of Love, which took off like a rocket ship. And then Here We Come. We came in and we were, even though John and Dino produced Petra wasn't signed to them. So that was a different business relationship that they had. And they did a great job of coming up with songs like, Council of the Holy, which is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah. Good song.
And Fear Not got signed after we did. So while we were out on the road, Fear Not comes in and they had recorded their tracks. Well, remember, there was a long time before we actually got in and really locked in on Trust, because we come back off the road, maybe July. We're in the studio in September. I'm the only one in there.
94?
This is 93 at the time.
Okay.
And all of the tracks, me and John fleshed them out. Same thing as before. We did come back and we wanted to be a little heavier. Mm-hmm. And there was going to be a meeting, but Tony and I were going to spend a little time together. So Tony took me to, I want to say it was Thai food. And what's with Michael and Tony? Always wanted to eat the spicy stuff, right? So we're going and we're talking, and he asked me how things were going. And I said, hey, there's only one thing. While we were out on the road, Miracle Mile came out. And man, I loved it. We'd done some shows together. We were back east, and I think somewhere in Pennsylvania. And they came out and they were doing, She Shine Johnny. And me and Freddie were just like, this is what we're missing here, right here. Tony's shredding what we want to shred, right?
Yeah.
We were totally capable of doing it. But they, John and Dino wanted to, I think because Petra wasn't on their label, I think we were the closest thing to a Petra, because we liked keyboards and we had those kind of sing-alongable songs and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think the design for us was a little different. It was more radio. Guardian was already established as a really big rock act, right? So, but once I heard Miracle Mile, as a songwriter, I'm like, I can't go back. And music had just shifted. So now there was a drop D. So for those that don't play guitar, your guitar strings are E, A, D, G, B, E, and the low E is the one that most of your riffs, originate on at some point. Well, when grunge came out, people were tuning it down to a D so that you could play a chord without actually having to fret it. And so with your E and your A string, if you just play those two together, they were already a power chord. So you could just have one finger going up and down the neck playing these riffs. So I came up with Dirty Water. It was the first thing I played once I tuned down to D, but I'd never played anything like that before. But I sat down with Tony and I said, man, comparing Power of Love to Miracle Mile, you guys got a lot harder. And I go, plus there's a lot more diversity. You're not, you had everything from the Captain to She Shine Johnny. I mean, there was some really cool, there was diversity there.
Different.
I think if anybody accuses me of Evie's Little Garden being diverse, I say thank you.
Thank you.
That's what we wanted. But Tony told me, he goes, well, dude, I got to tell you, he goes, in a nice way. He goes, you don't got to be uncool about it, but you got to fight for what you want. And he knew me as a laid back guy. And I'm like, well, I'll try, but we'll see how that goes. Cause I was a kind of a shy guy. Right. Mm-hmm. Anyways, we have this meeting and it's John and Dino and us at Pakaderm. We're a little bit road weary at this time because we had been through 32 states in 3 months.
Right.
And we had played all together now. And if that ain't love, for thousands of people, tens of thousands of people. And we were a little tired, and James was still in the band at the time, but there was some friction going on.
Yeah.
And we were already talking about, we didn't know if that was going to work out. But when we went in to meet with John and Dino to talk about the next record, it was basically, and this is no disrespect to them, it was their label. They had decisions they had to make, and we were on their label, and we were fortunate, and we knew it. So we weren't demanding by any stretch, but I certainly was the one. Me and my brother, we spoke up. We said, we want to go a little harder on this record. I mean, we love Tears of a Broken Heart. We love Ride with the Rhythm. But what if we really took Ride with the Rhythm and really chunked it up a bit? And at first, John and Dino, we were met with a little bit of pushback, but they dealt with a lot of artists. I mean, at the time, Bride was about to come over there and start recording some things,
and they did X Center. They were really heavy.
X Center was incredibly heavy. So we're sitting there going, how come we can't be?
Yeah.
Right. So, but in the end, they relented and said, okay, all right. John wasn't too happy at first, but we worked it out. And Dino will be the first one to tell you. Dino will tell you, in a family, sometimes families got to put each other in headlocks every now and again, but you still work it out. And that's true. That's how it was at Pakaderm. It still lets you, talk about or fight for what you believed in, but you kind of have to qualify it. Okay, you're going to go heavier. What do you got? So we came in with Don't and Dirty Water. And we had the Bones of the River. We had the Bones of When You're Alone. And that kind of sparked them. And John and I had sat down, and he had this keyboard riff that I thought was awesome. It was very bluesy, but he didn't play guitar, so he didn't know where the chords were. So I sat down with him, and that was Can't Let the Devil Win. So I helped him flesh out those chords on guitar. That's me playing guitar. And by the way, on Trust, that's all me and Freddie on guitar. There's nobody else playing that I take that back. I think JR's playing the picking part at the beginning of Tomorrow. Beautiful part, and JR, master musician, just killing it. I'll never say, no, JR, I've got to play that. JR was a humble monster, still is. But we did have our imprint on Trust. So we were starting, it was weird because when we got signed originally, we were a lot more like Journey meets Queensryche.
Yeah.
Right? So we were a technical, we were all very proficient. Technically, we were very proficient. We had a great singer. We could all sing harmonies. So when you heard us sing, it was pretty much us. Trust comes along. My brother steps up. Our entire sound changes. We've got a cool album cover. That was the coolest thing about Trust is David Bach just knocked it out of the park. He's just a great album cover design, right? Even today, I'm still so proud of that. And different singer. We have to not only win back the fans we already had, but we had to create some new ones.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it didn't go as big as Battle Cries for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is the label decided they were going to move to Nashville. So when we were recording Battle Cries, we were very comfortable because everybody was there. We knew where the coffee machine was. We knew where the restrooms were. We had a game room. Everything was fine. But when we were recording Trust, I was cutting tracks while there was an engineer in there with a screwdriver unbolting the Neve console.
Oh, wow.
So that didn't give you that sense of hominess that you were looking for. Plus, John, for Battle Cries, John was there all the time. For Trust, he had moved back to Nashville.
Okay.
So there's a lot of phone calls between him and Dino. And Dino pretty much handled most of that record himself. Okay. John was there for some of it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely there to work with Randy, but so was Dino. And, it's legendary. If you were to talk to singer after singer that worked at Pakaderm, how hard John worked a singer. There was no cut and paste. There was no copying. Everything you hear a singer had to sing. And John could give you a melody if you didn't have one. John could have it on the spot. But you better get it right.
Yeah.
Not because he was not fun, because John was a blast. He was very funny. He was a cool guy, still is. But
you want to be perfect.
Dino was a guitar player, but he wasn't a technically proficient one like a Tony or a myself or Chris from from Fear Not. We just came from different places. Dino could cut as good as anybody. If he sat down to track, I mean, he could put a track together really fast, and it sounded good. Probably a lot of things you guys have heard on the radio, Dino's playing and you don't even know it. But we were lead players. We were George Lynchy kind of guys. We were Van Halen-y kind of guys, you know? Yeah. So, whereas when I was cutting guitars with Dino, he wanted it right, but he didn't ride you very hard because he respected that you were a guitar player and would let you, he would let you do your thing. He would just suggest things, you know? Yeah. John, on the other hand, because he had perfect pitch, I think it's probably like a piano player and you're going to your lesson with an out-of-tune piano. Not saying that the singers were not in tune, because I mean, he dealt with some great singers, John Schlitt, Jamie Rowe, Randy, my brother, James. There were some great singers, you know, Larry from Fear Not. John worked with guys that were very adept at singing. These are guys that weren't rookies. These are guys who had paid their dues, which was, if your band got signed, I guarantee 90% of the reason was because John liked the singer. So if you had a deal, John already liked you. So he wasn't doing anything wrong, but you knew you were dealing with John Elefante. It'd be kind of like getting signed by Steve Perry, and then Steve's the one producing your vocals. If that doesn't get inside your head, I don't know.
You got a certain standard.
Absolutely.
To be approved.
So there are stories of some singers breaking down, curse words, just getting to the point of just like they want to pull their hair out. But John knew how to get results. So anything you listen to that they produced, and the vocals are killer, John pulled that out of that singer. So he wasn't trying to hurt the singer. He was trying to pull that performance out of him, you know, and he got him.
I mean, as a fan back then, anything that had the John and Dino stamp on it, you knew was quality.
You know, I'm thinking about getting a stamp for myself now that I'm producing my own band. I think maybe do a little etching. I don't know.
So Larry sang background vocals from after Fear Not. So would you say, hey, you want to sing some back? Now, who suggested it?
It was John and Dino. They said, hey, we got the singer for Fear Not. We'd heard the record. We loved it. Yeah. We met them. Great guys. Me and Larry hit it off right away. They knew the drummer that was playing with us. And so Larry was invited to come down and sing on some backgrounds. And you can hear him on Dirty Water. You can hear him on several of the songs on that album. But he was just a cool hang. He was just a good guy to hang out with. Went to his house. Became fast friends right away. And even today, through all these years, Larry and I have just been buddies. We've always kind of kept tabs on each other. And I think I even thanked him in the Evie's credits. This is a buddy of mine, you know. Yeah. I always try to give props to my friends. Dennis Cameron's in there, Tony's in there, and
love Dennis. I'm gonna try to get Dennis an interview. Hopefully,
you need to. Dennis is a great guy. I have another story on Dennis later, but you know, when I met Michael Sweet after we came back off the first tour for Battle Cries, he was in there because Stryper had just broken up.
Right.
And
because I know Tony Palacios played guitar in his demos, the demos.
He did. Oh, they were really tight. They were, you know, I wasn't at the level of friends with Michael that Tony was, but I was getting pretty darn close by the time we finished our album. Michael would come down on his days off just to hang out with us because he was going through new stuff, and he was in Studio B, we were in Studio A, and we'd pull jokes on each other. And you know, Michael's the one that introduced me to California rolls and called it sushi, so I still eat them today. But when Michael was looking for a band, he asked me if we knew you know, any guys that would join the band. Well, me and my brother put the band together for him. So I said, well, Scott Harper from White Cross. I know that they're not going to be going back out after this tour. You should call Scott Harper. He's a great guy, wonderful dude, killer bass player. Michael calls him, gets him. And drum wise, we told him about the guy on our album. I mean, the guy that just played on Trust, Jamie Wallum. He's amazing. He's now the drummer for Tears for Fears.
Oh, interesting.
But back then he was playing with Michael.
Okay.
Michael loved his playing. He heard him on our tracks, and they got together. I don't know if they knew each other before then, but I don't think they did. And then the only person we didn't get for him was a keyboard player. But then he goes, well, what about guitar? And I go, dude, since Tony's taken and me and Freddie aren't going anywhere, I'm going to tell you the guy that I think you should get. I go, but you're going to have to really stretch to get him. And you know, Michael in his voice, bro, tell me who, bro. and I go, his name is Dennis Cameron. He plays for a band called Angelica.
Yes.
And I said, Dennis is a deadly guitar player and a great songwriter. So I said, you should reach out to him. Next thing I know, this is true. About 2 months later, Michael calls me and he goes, hey bro, I'm having I got the band together for our first practice. You want to come down and check it out? And I said, heck yeah, I want to come check it out. Who's in it? He names off all the people that we got into his band, and I'm like, yes, that's awesome. So I show up to this little rehearsal place. Me and my brother showed up. I'm sitting there looking at the who's who of people that I respected in the Christian rock industry at the time. Dennis Cameron on guitar. I went over and shook his hand and everything. Scott Harper from Whitecross, Jamie Wallum from our band, and various others. And it was just really cool, right? Well, Michael told me after the rehearsal, he goes, hey, we're having a kind of a private show. It's gonna be my first time performing since I left Stryper, and I want you there with me. And I said, my honor, man.
Yeah, nice.
But not only did I get to go, and I'd already known Robert, and I met his mom and Oz and everybody, but he let me sit on the side of the stage while he's performing. So in the middle of this, here's a guy that I saw playing Bakersfield with Hurricane. With Stryper. I saw Stryper 3 times, right? Yeah. And he's walking over to me and he's reaching out and going, dude, I'm nervous. I'm like, you're Michael Sweet. I'm nobody, man. Get But Michael's another one of those guys. His pitch is perfect. I mean, his intonation's phenomenal. Yeah, I've been lucky to be around these great singers. I mean, it's really humbling and a great memory for me too. So, but
Stryper's still putting out great music, if not
still doing
today.
Well, Michael is the one that got us involved with Oz, and Dino had suggested him too. Dino was like, you guys, once James was gone, they were like, and that's one thing I can rightfully say about myself is when the big things go wrong, I don't sweat about them because I'm like, God got me here, he'll get me there too. Yep. So when they go, well, you don't have a singer, what are you guys going to do? I mean, that was James Salters. And I go, I know that, but it was my band that brought James Salters to the world, right? So God's the one that provided those relationships. Yep. And God bless James, and wherever he goes, I hope it's phenomenal. And he went to Faith Nation and made a great record. But when everyone was like, well, who are you guys going to get to sing? And I said, well, I'd like my little brother to sing. But Randy doesn't want to do it. He's never sang for anybody. I think he was 19 years old at the time. Okay. And so Freddie, we had a pretty big age gap because there was Freddie at 15, Randy at 19, me at 25, Malcolm at 24, but James was 35. Okay. 35 or 36. That was a big age gap. Right. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's probably why we had whatever differences we had. There was too big of a gap. We weren't like all 23 and 24 years old. We didn't all come from the same place. Mm-hmm. James was really into Deep Purple. I wasn't. I was into Journey, Night Ranger, Racer X. I was into Guardian. I was into Stryper. Yep. And so here we are right in the middle of the midst of where we want to be and who we want to be around. And I can't believe it. But then our singer's gone. Right. Well, that wasn't the only thing that happened. We come back off the road from Battle Cries. When we left, you could hear Jackal on the radio, or, you could hear Trickster. Yep. We came back and there's a naked baby swimming in a pool. And they're singing
Teen Spirit or whatever.
Well, every guitar player that I knew was like, well, what do we do now? No one's playing in key. No one's playing. I mean, there were some great bands that came out. I mean, Alice in Chains, I loved them.
Yeah, they were probably my favorite.
But bands like Pearl Jam weren't for me. They didn't have songs that I could really, they ended up growing on me, but they didn't hit me like a Journey did.
And the big thing in the 90s was, again, maybe aside from Alice in Chains, was the lead guitaring.
It was gone.
Existent.
Yeah. And if you did one, it was, put it to you this way. When Kurt Cobain is considered a guitar hero, you really got to rethink what does it mean to be a guitar player? Because guys like Tony and myself, Oz Fox, Michael Sweet, we all grew up doing our work.
Van Halen,
learned the instrument.
George Lynch, all those guys.
I love George Lynch. Yeah.
There's a lot of my favorites.
The guy, who was the guy for Winger?
Red Beach.
That's kind of what I have smaller hands. Yep. So when I was learning, I've seen these guys with these long crocodile fingers. I'm like, how do I get the stretch And so I was sitting there going, well, I like what Eddie does, but I was really into Jeff Watson from Night Ranger, so I did a lot of tapping to increase the amount of notes I could hit on a fretboard, right? Here I am thinking, yeah, man, I got this wired. No one's ever gonna be able to figure this one out, because I'm flying up and down the neck like this, and then Red Beach comes out, and I'm going, oh, shoot, he beat me to it, you know? And Vito Brato from White Lion, I really loved him. I thought he was
it's
amazing.
A shame that he never came out of retirement and doesn't want. And
it's ridiculous.
Such
He's one of the best guitar players I've ever heard.
I know. It's like the parable where you take the talent, you bury it.
Well, and that brings up an interesting point. I like, I watch all the things that you're doing online and stuff. And I found out about you because I was coming back from the beach one day with me and my wife, and I found this link of this guy that was reviewing Evie's Little Garden, our new album.
Oh, yep.
And I go, wow, this is cool. So all the way back from Ventura, about an hour away, we're listening to you.
Oh, that's
like,
cool.
So as soon as I got home, man, I texted you. I was like, dude, this is cool. Thank you so much.
That's cool.
But watching the thing, guys like you, Area 312.
Rex and Ken.
Joel has a podcast that I've been a part of that I can't remember his last name. I think it's Joel Walker. But he's a great guy, right? And you guys are keeping Christian rock relevant.
Yeah.
And the thing that makes me laugh is these guitar players that I'm telling you about, the Dennis Camerons, the Tony Palacioses, me, the devil don't own rock music. Right. He never owned it. And it makes me laugh that, I'll hear some of these folks that I'm sure they have nothing but the best of intentions. We got to save our kids from this evil music. It was never the music any more than the color of paint belonged to the devil. He doesn't own the color red just because people see him as the red devil, right? Jesus's blood was red. I'll take that any day of the week over a red devil. The talent that I see on your wall here, most every band you've got, I know somebody from most every one of those bands, and they're some of the most God-fearing, talented dudes.
Yeah,
that could have chose a whole different way of life. Tony could have played for anyone. Dennis Cameron could have played. I could have played for anyone.
Rex Carroll, all top.
Rex Carroll, phenomenal player.
Yeah.
But I look at that and I go, thank the Lord that all of us heard that calling in our heart. We're not perfect. We're no better than the next guy on the street. But we took the thing that we were better than everybody else on the street, and we put that to use to glorify God. And I think that gets me so excited.
Yeah, that's why I started the show. I do like audio critiques because sometimes they'll get reissued with a remaster, or I like to go over the packaging.
Don't I know it?
Well, and I give my
funny story.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
There's a funny story that belongs completely to you.
Okay.
When we were going to release Evie's Little Garden, me and John and Malcolm got to talking, and we're like, are we even relevant anymore? When we had an album in 2014, at least I did, but I was involved with a couple of other people. It was that one. I didn't have a budget. I didn't have the studio that I have.
Yep.
But I was getting hit up by fans all the time. You guys should do some remakes. You should. So I thought, we're going to try and put this together. And it didn't turn out how we wanted. I was not in full control of Rise like I was Evie's.
Okay.
Evie's, John and Malcolm.
It's different. I'll ask you something about this later. Go ahead.
Sure. When we decided we were going to put the artwork together, I wanted it to be the best artwork that we could come up with, right, for Evie's Little Garden. I already had the song, I already had the title. That's what I wanted to name the album. And John and Malcolm, bless their hearts, they just let me run with any ideas that I want. But I always ask them what do they think, and that's the album right there. But if you turn your album around and you show the people, you are the only person that saw. Now we've sold a ton of these things. They're all over the world. But on the back, the songs are out of order.
Yes.
Songs 6 and 7 are actually reversed.
Yeah.
We did that on purpose. But we only did it for the first 300.
Oh.
Because we wanted to make a collector, and we wanted to see how long it would be before we wanted to see if people were paying attention.
So you watched
You're
my
the
video.
only guy who called. I go, Janet, my wife Janet and I, we do everything together, and we're driving along, and I go, this guy's gonna crack it. I go, he's already talking about it. Listen to this, and you're going, wait a second. I don't think this is that song, and I just died laughing. I'm in the car just cracking up, going, Finally, somebody caught it. So now, we sold out of those a while back.
Okay.
So all the CDs that are shipping all over the world right now, they're in the proper order.
Yeah.
So and this is important for people to know, if you bought one of the first batches that we had that has songs 6 and 7, which I believe are
it's Lonely Bones in
If I Told You.
If I Told You, yes.
On the first 300, it lists Lonely Bones first as song 6, and If I Told You next, but that's not the order of them. If you bought number 301 or 302, you no longer have the collector's version. You have the regular version. But we did that on purpose.
You did, okay.
And you're the only guy.
When I review it and stuff like that happens, it drives me crazy. I'm like, how do people release this and they don't even read?
Yeah, we had just been away for a while, and we just want to see if people were paying attention, and it was really cool. I laughed so hard when you did that, because I thought that's a moment only he knows that he's the only one that got it.
That's cool.
So
thanks for sharing that story. That's cool. Yeah, because
cool.
I just do my show, and I'm like, if I have 2 people that watch it, I'm happy. I just do a show that I would want to watch. I like the packaging. I want to know who mixed it. I want to know who produced it, where it was recorded. Right. And with the digital age now, let me download it. You don't know anything about the recording.
You really don't.
You don't have the concept that the artist is intending, you know?
Well, I mean, that was every album you have on that wall. If I were to buy it, I would be opening it up to see where it was recorded, how many studios were used, who was the guitar player, what are the lyrics. One of the complaints we do have about the CD is because people are like, well, why are your lyrics so small? And I says, well, I could make them bigger and you only get 10 songs, but I'd rather give you more music.
Yeah.
So on this next record, we probably got 15, 16 songs recorded already, and choosing them is going to be hard. We'd originally agreed we were only going to do 10, mainly because on the vinyl, which should be dropping in a couple of weeks,
you can only fit so much.
I didn't know that on a vinyl, you only have so much space, right? Before you got to go to a double album. Well, me being a songwriter, and I write songs that aren't 3 minutes. I as part of the learning process, we didn't have a label behind us, so some of this stuff we're discovering on our own.
Yeah.
But so the next album, we'll probably be doing another 12, 13 songs.
And you mentioned off camera about maybe a special project with Larry.
Funny that you should mention that. Yes. For those that do know about recording, if you're familiar with the Slate Raven system, it's 2 27-inch monitors, which right now are right in front of me. So the left one's right there, right one's right here, and my main computer's up here. Mm-hmm. I work in Cubase, but you can do this with Pro Tools or Logic or anything that you're into. Full blown, I can turn it into an SSL, a Neve, anything I need. We do most everything on the SSL, but Larry just got one. Now, as a result of that, and actually it was prior, I didn't know he was going to get one, but Larry already had a studio, right? Okay. So we've kept tabs on each other. He knew that when they came out with the last Fear Not EP with the new singer, mm-hmm. we kind of hooked up again, and we were talking stuff like that. And I said, well, I'm about to start on this project called Evie's Little Garden with John and Malcolm, and at the time Freddie was going to be involved. So it was going to be four of us, all from different versions of the Brave.
Yeah.
Freddie ended up dropping off, so it was just me and John and Malcolm, and that's fine with me because it's more guitar fun for me. But Larry and I got to talking, and he had a death in his family. I think it was a nephew or a grandson or something. And he wrote this song that he did this YouTube on. If you guys haven't heard it, go to YouTube and type in Silver Mountain Larry Worley. It's one of the most gorgeous, well-written songs that I've ever heard.
Give you wings to fly to Silver Mountain. You can hear the angels sing as you pass by. The only words you hear are I love you.
And I played it for my wife, and she's like, "Who is that?" That's my buddy Larry. because one thing that was similar, I think when me and Larry both hit it off is he's the main writer for Fear Not.
Yeah.
At least he was back then. I don't know if he is now, but I think he is. And for The Brave, I've always been the main writer.
Mm-hmm.
So the five new songs that we did on Rise, I wrote those, and all 12 of the songs that are on Evie's and the upcoming Gravedigger, I wrote all those as well. Well, me and Larry are kindred spirits from that respect because we deal with a lot of the same stuff with band members, with showing our songs to someone or having them get changed by a producer or something. And so we got to talking. I go, Larry, we have got to record that song. I said, let me produce you. And he goes, no, man, let's do it together. And I go, all right. So we sat down for a couple of months. Then we got to talking just before Christmas. And he told me, he goes, before, I don't know if he'll like me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway because he'll laugh. He says, before Evie's came out, I was about to hit you guys up because I didn't know what was going to happen with Fear Not. I thought I was dead. And I thought, well, maybe I'll sing for the Brave. Me and Stacey are buddies. Why not? But he never asked me, right? Because I would have said yes right away. Then he heard that I was singing, and he loved what he heard. And so we're kind of fans of each other. We respect the living daylights out of each other. But we decided we want to do a project because not all the songs I write are for the Brave.
Yeah.
And not all the songs he writes are for Fear Not. And I'm telling you, man, you got to hear this song, Silver Mountain. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. And, I remember when I was writing with John, he told me, he goes, well, that song of yours, Waiting, he changed it to The Waiting, but it was originally called Waiting. He goes, that's almost a perfectly written song. Years later, here I am listening to something from Larry, and I told him, I go, that's a perfectly written song. So you kind of pass the torch along,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're it's not going to be like Fear Not. And it's not going to be like the Brave.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it like a lighter style?
No, it won't be lighter. No, there's actually, I have a song that I told Larry about yesterday. I go, hey dude, I got one for us. And he goes, what is it? I go, it's called Heavy. But the lyric says, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Talking about the responsibility that there is on those of us that proclaim Christ, especially in days like this that we're in now.
I know.
And he's all about it. So where's it going to end up? It'll be, the only similarity it'll have to Evie's Little Garden is that it will be diverse. Yep. Because Larry's, like you and I were talking earlier, he's a little bit more like Sebastian Bach from Skid Row.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit more like Bon Jovi, I guess. But we both love like Chris Cornell. We have a lot of the same influences. So I'm really excited to see where this project's going to end up. But next weekend, we're cracking the egg on this because we're going to get he just bought a Slate Raven system just like mine.
Yep.
But he needs some help getting the thing up and running, which he knows I'm here for him. But once we got it rolling, we're going to make a couple templates to where our songwriting sessions are ready to roll. So when we open one up, we start working. If I've got one, all I got to do is email it to him. He can open it up in his system.
Right. Same system.
It's going to be really sweet. So, but the album, I can promise you, the only thing that we're going to share from the bands is my drummer, John Spittle, is going to play drums on it. Okay. So, but outside of that, it'll just be me and Larry on everything. So, nice. Yeah, really excited about it. And yes, you'll get this renaissance of these podcasts and these video interviews that are happening right now. I love it. The 312 guys and Joel and you. I want to make sure you guys have this stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Same is true with radio. Radio has been embracing all of this. Guys like Steve Burton down in Oklahoma. There's so many people that are. It's like we're all starting this fraternity thing.
Yeah.
And we're sharing with each other so that the world can hear it.
Because of the internet, we can actually connect now. I never.
Well, not only can we connect. I did an interview with Walter Cardozo down in Chile. It was the interview played for over 70,000 people in Latin America.
Wow.
We could never have done this back in the day, right?
No.
I mean, you don't know how many people are going to watch this, but the impact is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody needs to coin it mustard seed because we're all planting seeds and we don't know where they're going to grow. Right. It's a beautiful thing. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. And you playing a part in this, even though, it's kind of like what you hear when you're in church where they say the meek shall inherit the earth. You don't know what small part you're going to play, what a big impact it's going to have somewhere else or somewhere down the line. You might have done this interview on one of your worst days ever. You could have the worst day in the world. You're like, oh, I better knock out this interview. But 6 months down the line, I get so much email. Me and Malcolm and John, we get a ton of email from all over the world, and people making comments about, man, I listened to Lonely Bones, and it brought me to tears. I listened to this song or that song, and man, I've been through running all my life. I've when I listen to Just a Man, it gives me chills, and you just sit there and you go, what? It blows you away how this,
impact.
it impacts people. I mean, it's real, so.
And it's cool that, like, especially again for artists back in the day, they're like, once the internet and Facebook happens, they're like, wow, our fans are still out there, and we had a slight impact on their lives, or a great impact if it's like not committing suicide, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
You don't even know the influence, and like you were saying earlier, you want to put good out into the world.
You have to
Positive.
Yeah.
I always try to do that in my personal life. So, I was going to say, on Rise,
Yes.
those new songs, is it possible for you to re-record the vocals and reissue those songs?
I couldn't re-record them because I don't have the tracks anymore, because
Okay.
I tend to upgrade my computers a bit.
I wasn't sure if that was possible or not.
But in the same way that I recut 7 of the songs from Battle Cries and Trust on there, the reason it sounds like them is because I played them. I mean, I know how they go.
You wrote them.
So those 5 songs, Malcolm and John and myself, we don't really know how to get it out there, because now I got a busy year. I'll just so I can, I'm sure you've got like a list of all these people that you got to get to. Back to Rise, the 5 songs that are on there. We're either going to release a collector's edition EP.
Nice.
Because this year my schedule is like this. I just finished getting all but one of the tracks to Malcolm and John. Now, just so you understand the dynamic here, I live in California. Malcolm's in Indianapolis. John plays for Trace Atkins. Trace Atkins is drummer, and he lives in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
So I got to work around John touring, and we have to send stuff back and forth all the time. But I don't tell these guys what to play. I send them a song, then I send special versions of the mix that cater to them. So like John will get the song, he'll listen to it, learn the arrangement, and he does it faster than anybody I've ever seen. Then I'll send him a version with no drums. Mm-hmm. So I'll program the drums here when I'm showing him the demo.
Yep.
Malcolm will hear it, and then I'll send him a certain mix with just the isolated bass so he can kind of hear what's going on. And then without drums or bass, he'll cut his part. After he gets John's drums, then it comes back to me. Then I got to recut my guitar parts.
Right.
So it's a big process, but it's that's what gives me the ability to be able to be a songwriter, is I can send them my ideas and they help take it to that next level. Then it turns into the Brave. It's not the Brave until they're on it.
Right.
But all the vocals are cut right here, where you're looking at right here.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a slate microphone right here, running into my system with my Adams right here. Those 5 songs, I really like the songs. There's not one of them I don't like.
Yeah, they're really good songs.
Really good songs. It's Tell Me Now, Wither Me, I'm Your Reason, Killing Floor, and Somebody's Trying to Sell Me. Somebody. We will either, because we talked about putting them on this new album, but I'm like, everyone that knows me gets mad at me because I don't like to go backwards.
Yeah.
I only like to see today and go forward.
Most musicians are like that.
I mean, you want to be in the moment and create something that people haven't heard yet. But yeah, those songs are going to see the light of day at some point, because this year I'm finishing the next album, which is called Gravedigger. I'm doing the project with Larry, which I don't know what we're going to call it yet. And then I got to start working on our Christmas album that I have to have up, mixed and in the marketplace by maybe end of October. But
I was going to say, in the packaging, you should do like a Christmas tree with a snake in it.
Well, you'd be surprised. That was actually part of what I originally got from the graphic designer. But we said, well, let's not involve the snake anymore. We've dealt with him already. So we said, let's just have a globe that Evie's looking in. And she's singing all this, talking about, because the lyric of that song, is talking about all the joys of Christmas that somebody's walking along the city street and seeing. So we wanted her to be looking at it in this little snow globe, right? So
yeah.
But so I only know what's going to happen this year. Next year, I haven't mapped it out yet, but I am the one that maps it out. So I talked to John and Malcolm, see what their schedules are like. Coolest band I've ever been in, this lineup with the three of us, because the egos we have are on loan to each other. They're not pushing, they're not warring against one another.
Right.
You know, there's a big camaraderie, and so yes. And answer your question, you bet you're gonna hear those songs in their true light at some point. I just don't know when.
Nice, cool.
You know,
So we're gonna get into Evie's Little Garden. This is my 2021 record of the year.
oh, right on.
Great.
Thank you, man.
It's all killer, no filler. And
I thought I was the only one that said that.
and it's diverse, as you had mentioned earlier, which I heard because I watched, because again, I'm a new fan. I watched the interview with Kent, and they played the clips of Evie's Little Garden. I'm like, wow, that song is really great. 80s feel to it, 80s, 90s,
Yeah.
early 90s feel to it. I just assumed it was going to be all the same, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it took me on a journey that I was not prepared for. So we can do a quick highlights of songs.
Fire away.
Yeah.
I mean, no one knows those songs like I do.
Yeah,
Let me tell you.
Evie's Little Garden, I think, is one of the best songs I've heard in years.
Thank you.
Great big hook. Oh, production quality. Excellent.
Well, thank you.
Your system that you have working, you keep doing the same thing, because this sounds great.
Well, you can thank John and Dino for that, because they showed me about, gain staging, and Jeremy McNeely too. I mean, I was a sponge, and I mean, I was there. One of the guys might come down for a day and cut some tracks. I would be there for 2 weeks at a time. So I was watching everything, listening to everything from sun up to sundown and beyond. With Evie's, I cannot not mention how impactful it was to have Jeremy McNeely mix this, because he was always one of my favorite mixers. He's won a couple of Grammys, I think. He's worked with anyone you can think of. He's worked with a lot of the artists that are out right now in Christian rock. Jared's worked with. He's already on board to mix the next album.
Nice.
So he also mixed Christmas Every Day, and he'll be mixing the Christmas album as well. But yeah, Evie started out, and you'll generally find, and this is pretty close to true. It's not totally true, but it's pretty close to true. The order that you get the songs in on an album by the Brave, it's the order that I wrote them in for the most part. I don't change them around too much.
Yep.
If that's not the case, then it's the order that we got them mixed in. That's the order we keep them in. So we send them in the order of where we think the album's going to go. That's how we did this one.
Yep.
And I would talk to the guys. I go, guys, put together a list, but we all kept putting together the same list. So
no, it flows really nice. Yeah, I loved Evie's Little Garden. The song is great. Big chorus. Gives you that 80s feel to it, but in a good way.
Yeah, it was the first song that we had for the project. So once John had heard me singing some of these songs, Freddie had been sending them to him. He was like, "It's the ghost of Randy." He goes, "Dude, you sound like your brother." While we are similar, Randy had a much higher range than me, but I sing at a little higher place than where his natural tone center was.
Yep.
And the whole thing birthed off having that title, Evie's Little Garden. I'm like, man, what a great name for an album.
Yes.
So the way my mind works is when I hear something, I got to go with it. And so I'll write these songs in maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I don't ever war with them. John always tells a story that he heard me tell him once, and not John Elefante, John Spittle, our drummer. I feel like when I sit down to write a song, that all I'm really doing is putting an antenna up. I don't ever feel like I write the songs. I feel like I put an antenna up, and if I don't do that, the song is going to pass me by and go to somebody else. So when I sit down to write, it isn't like I'm writing a book. Writing a book, you got to come up with this, that, and the other.
It just flows out.
The chords tell me what the lyric needs to be. The phrasing tells me what the rhythm needs to be. The rhythm tells me what the guitars need to do. But the song speaks to me in a way that I already know what the title's got to be, or I'll flesh it out a little bit. I might riff over something for 15 or 20 minutes, but the songs come together for me extremely fast. I never war over a song. If I tell my wife, hey, I'm gonna go to this, I live across the street. My studio is over here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we rent two places right now. We bought a business 2 years ago, so we can't buy a house till this year, but we rented these two apartments so I could have my my studio to myself for this year. And then next year, we're going to have to buy something and build it the right way. If I say I'm coming across the street to write a song, there's going to be a song when I come back. And I don't say that cockily. It's a gift I didn't create, a gift God gave me. And I just like to get in it. And it's like driving a car. I get in the car and just see what's going to happen. But Evie's came about like that. It came to maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I put it together in 5 or 10 minutes, and it hasn't changed at all. That's how the song goes. Wow. So when I sent it to John and Malcolm, it was the first one they cut. Mm-hmm. And they loved it. They said, well, where'd you get the lyrical idea for it? And I said, well, you don't really ever hear the story of Adam and Eve told in a way that people that are brand new to the faith can understand it. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to, talk about, that they were made out of nothing and they had paradise at their disposal. All they had to do was stick with the covenant they made with the Lord. And in comes the snake. Yep. And he slithers up there. He seems to always find his way into my lyrics, but we're beating up on him on the next one. We beat up on him, kind of to hell with the devilish kind of thing. But I think we did a pretty good job of capturing the true story of Adam and Eve in a more contemporary kind of thing with an 80s feel. So that's how that song came about. And I get a lot of mail about that, a lot of emails about Evie's, about the impact it has on them and stuff like that. But then you turn around and you go to, people ask, well, what were you guys like before you became the Brave? And I said, well, we were like song 2 and 3 on Evie's Little Garden, because those were 2 songs that we pitched to John and Dino, but they didn't want them at the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they had heard.
Run to You is track 2.
Run to You was one of our big concert songs. We used to. There's a guy from the Metal Onslaught named Dave Priest. He's a good buddy of mine. He was at all of our shows back in those days, so he remembered that song right out of the gate. I've always wondered. That also was from our live shows before we got a record deal. John probably heard us do these songs live. I don't know. I can't remember.
Interesting.
But those were big live songs for us.
Yeah, on Run to You, and we had mentioned this guitar player earlier. I got the Dennis Cameron feels.
Oh yeah. Me and Freddie were big time into Dennis.
In that. I'm like, oh, it sounds like Dennis Cameron.
Although I'll be honest with you, that was me trying to be Oz Fox and Michael Sweet. So those parts, when I put that song together, sometimes I get these binges going and I'll write 2 or 3 songs in one night. Big World Waiting and Just a Man I wrote in one night, same night. I don't know why. I just sat down and there it was. And they all came out. I've always wondered, I wrote the day after I wrote Run to You. So I'm just sitting down and playing. For guitar players that write, you don't sit down to write so much. You sit down to play, but then you find a cool riff. Yep. I sit down and pick up the guitar and I'm like, oh, that's cool. What is that? Okay, let's drop that C sharp to an A. Okay, cool. Now we got something. So that song came about pretty quick too. So to Run to You, but Run to You is a little bit different than the original version, because when we were doing it live, the middle section, I kind of felt when we got to the solo, I'm like, it's kind of dying. I let the songs tell me what they need. Right. And so when I sat down to kind of look at Run to You, I thought, I always loved that song and I want it to see the light of day. And I'm the producer now, so I can do whatever I want. So I want to do that song. And the way it works is I'll put a song together. The guys get real excited. I'll say, John and Malcolm, who wants to hear a new song? And they're like, we do. So I'll send it to them. And, they're so great about letting me be me, Right. So, but that's how Run to You was. I sent that one next. Then I sent I've Always Wondered, and I told my wife, I go, she's my confidant. She's my wife is my muse. She listens to everything. She tells me what she thinks. And she's even wrote some lyrics. She has a couple lines on Creep that came from her. I said, well, what do you think about this song? And she goes, I think your drummer's going to love you forever for that song, because those are some cool parts. So I sent I've Always Wondered to John. Run to You, quick note on that. There was one guy that reviewed our album and I don't know who he is. God bless anybody that reviews us, good, bad, negative, or indifferent. I appreciate every one of you, because you're keeping us alive and relevant, and I appreciate you. But he says, the real hang up I got with this song is whoever wrote it, he's not rhyming the choruses. Because it says, Jesus, I will run to you, resting in the shadow of your wings. I had another guy go, God don't have wings. And I just laugh because I go, guys, it's imagery. I don't even answer or respond. I just laugh like, oh, God bless them. I mean,
People get so
I don't
literal.
think there's you don't have to rhyme it. If you're the songwriter, you let the song flow. You know, Paul McCartney never had to rethink, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, singing words of wisdom. None of that rhymes. But he's a Beatle, so he gets away with it. But, you know, me, little brave guy, I mean, I guess, you know. But I thought that was a funny story with Run to You, because I'm like, well, at least he liked the song, you know. I've always wondered,
what my life would be like if he had not died for me. To think that forever, if we were together alone for eternity, but I believe in you.
to me, that's where my whole faith came from. Was I always wondered, what would it matter to be alive if I didn't have a savior? You know, I mean, am I just here for this show? And then when the final credits roll, what did my life even mean? You know, if he had not died for every one of us, we don't have anything.
Right.
You know, I have a line in Run to You that says, it's better to die with hope than it is to live with doubt. I don't really consider myself much of a lyricist, even though my wife tells me, oh, no, you're a great lyricist. And I'm like, well, I do the best I can. I am such a fan of a really good lyricist, you know, like John Elefante. I mean, brilliant lyricist. I mean, stuff he writes, I sit and I read it and I go, wow, that's really, and Dino's a great lyricist. He wrote a lot of lyrics on our albums. I mean, he comes up with some really, really cool stuff. But to have a line like that in a song that I wrote, I thought, what a blessing to say something that I know has to speak to somebody else.
Yep.
You know,
the track "Elevate Me," another great track. Low end for the verses, kind of a grunge kind of thing going on, but you know, in big background vocals in the chorus.
I will tell you, Elevate Me. The day that song came about, I was thinking about the Trust stuff. I think I'd been listening to Trust the day before.
Yeah.
And it probably just kind of kicked me into that kind of frame of thought. Because, you know, as guitar players, there's so much that have to do with your mood. If you're aggressive, then you play aggressive. If you're sad, you play crybaby stuff. You know, you make it want to weep like Joe Satriani. But that song, Elevate Me, was just about, you know, upping my game spiritually. It was just about, look at the world. You know, everybody's worried about who's got bigger toys. Who cares?
Yeah. You
can have the bigger toy. Take it from me. I don't want it, you know, but I need God to elevate me, you know. And there is a funny story about Elevate Me, though. And I can't believe no one's asked me this. Not one person has asked me about this, except an old high school friend named Tammy Shafe Pollard, who went to high school with me and Malcolm. She asked me, dude, what are you saying at the beginning of Elevate Me? Because it says like, Auga chaka. But, you know, it's kind of like that old song, Ooga, Ooga, Ooga chaka. Well, it came
about,
this is a funny story, but one of my favorite movies is Step Brothers with Will Ferrell and the guy that played Dewey Cox. And there's this scene where him and this girl become Sagittariuses. And I watched it the night before. I just laugh every time I see the scene, and they're going, I go, I got to do something like that. Because I remembered when on All Together Now, and somebody just asked me this yesterday for the first time. They say, what is it that they're saying in All Together Now at minute 2:51? Someone's talking when there's this rise going on All Together Now. And it's just before we all go, and it was Dino. He didn't know the mic was on. I didn't know all these years. I never knew what was said. And I asked Malcolm yesterday, I go, Malcolm, you always remember all this stuff. What did Dino say? And he goes, I don't think you're going to like it. And I go, what? And he goes, he didn't know the mic was on. And he said, Stacey is the Pillsbury Doughboy. So that's what's being said on that song.
Oh, that's a cool little inside joke there.
Yeah. So the words that I'm saying in there are like Kaiki. I was just making them up. I mean, but then I sang them 8 times, or however many times I do. When I do background vocals, I might do 6, I might do 8, I might do 12. On the next album, I'm getting a lot more, starting to finesse the background vocals a lot more. So they're going a lot more different places. But there's thousands of backgrounds, right? We love backgrounds. I mean, that's the Pakaderm formula.
John and Dino, yes.
John and Dino, baby. So I hope we didn't like summon a Hawaiian demon or something with the words, because they don't mean anything.
Like from the Brady Bunch? Do you remember
Yeah,
the Brady Bunch?
exactly. Yeah, with the pineapple and everything.
The tiki.
Yes. Yeah, the tiki. There it is. But yeah, that's funny story about it is I was kind of stuck somewhere in between the Step Brothers scene that always just cracks me up because it's so dumb, that I thought, well, I need to put some stuff in there just so people will go, what do you say? And just like the back of the album, nobody said anything. Like I'm like, I'm putting all these cool Easter eggs in and nobody's asking me anything. So
I caught one.
yeah, but I do like that song, and I think it's a little bit more of the things that the tunes that kind of modernizes us a bit, but still holds on to that trust era.
Yeah.
In the same way that Run to You was kind of like Battle Cries,
Yep.
So
the next song, Creep, is another one of my favorites on the CD.
Creep.
I put cool opening, mid-pace groove. Creep is a great title.
And then you said it was creepy.
Yeah, the verses almost have a gothic feel in vocals, but still melodic.
Yeah.
I was playing different parts on the left and right channels.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
You know what? I get a lot of that from Jerry McNeely, because when he mixes stuff, he'll put things. He keeps it interesting,
Yes.
And I love that about his mixes. So, Creep. I have been asked a lot about, well, what does it mean? And it's about, it starts out with the 2 demons talking. One's a little higher up than the other one, and he's saying, where's your charge? Well, he's got a protector. Well, the protector happens to be an angel, right? And as I wrote that song, I said, well, how can I make this seem really creepy? I mean, I know what the melody's going to do, so I already know it's going to be a cool song, but I need to make this hit lyrically as hard as it does, music.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is the demon goes and finds his old charge, and he's basically, it's like a broke up couple. And he's like, what's up, man? We had a good thing going. If you only knew that I creep into your room every night while you sleep and I write words on the wall, in my mind, I was thinking, he's writing things that are dark and on the darker side, the evil side of things, trying to remind this guy while he sleeps that don't forget about me. I'm the demon that we had a good thing going. But the second verse, it says, I witnessed the wings stretched over your bed and suddenly I'm cast into the fire instead. So he shows up thinking he's going to reclaim a guy that he had led down the wrong path. And instead his prayers had been answered and God sends an angel to protect him. And he sends that demon right back to hell where it belongs. So
nice.
So, but yeah, melodically, and the structure of the song, like I said, I'm a huge Queensrÿche fan. I love Operation Mindcrime. I love Want to Get Close to You. I was such a big fan. The 80s, that's one thing I think Stryper never gets their just due. Of all the bands that came in the 80s, there was so much cheese. There were only a few bands that were like a Dokken or Queensrÿche that really had this massive talent in it, right?
Yeah.
But Stryper had as much as anybody.
Yep.
In spades. And I'm like, I don't know what people don't ever say. Wow, I tried to follow, Oz Fox and Michael Sweet guitar-wise, great players.
Yep.
So, but yeah, that was the whole. I knew I was in a Queensrÿche place when I wrote that song, so it worked out pretty good for me. So
that's one of my favorites.
And it is creepy, as you said.
Next track 7.
I
told you. Not Lonely Bones. I put melodic rock or cool verse. Cool verse.
Which one is this?
If I told you.
If I told you. If I told you.
If I told you there was someone who knows you now, would it matter? If I showed you what true love is and admit your heart wouldn't shatter?
Yeah, that's a little cheap, tricky. A little bit of I'm a huge. For those that don't know what my influences are, prior to getting into Christian rock, I'm a Beatles fan. They're back there on that picture. I love all the bands that pay tribute to the Beatles, like King's X or Galactic Cowboys. It's hard to do because if you're going to try and do Beatles influences, you end up having to get into some of these sophisticated vocal harmonies. And I do a lot of vocals, so I can assure you they were way ahead of their time as far as they didn't have the technology we do now. But man, the voicings they would come up with, where you are setting certain notes together to make these chords beautiful, right? So my influences come from Cheap Trick. I could listen to Surrender any day of the week, or anything from live at Budokan. I love Fleetwood Mac. I love guitar wise. I loved Night Ranger. I loved Racer X. I love Journey, Foreigner. All those kind of groups. They influenced how I play. They influenced my vocal melodies. Kansas, another big one.
Yep.
But If I Told You was right along that vein of. I almost didn't know if I was going to put it on the album because I thought, is this too poppy? It's a little bit of that 70s pop.
Yeah.
But as it was coming together, and once John put his drums down, I go, oh, there's no question we have to do this song. So,
but again, it mixes it up. But you go from Creep to that.
Yeah,
You get a totally different feel.
Different feel.
Some
Same
variety.
players. Yeah,
I was again, like I mentioned, I was very surprised that I really enjoyed the journey you go on throughout the song. Listening one track to the next.
Well, we missed one. We missed.
Did I miss one?
We're not in Kansas anymore.
Yes.
Now, I did
Great
get
song.
the funniest email on that song. Somebody says, "Is this because you're not with John and Dino anymore?" I'm like, well, Dino wasn't in Kansas, and neither was I. So what does that even mean? I mean, God bless everyone with a question, because you don't know unless you ask.
You've got to stand up and shout when the devil's at your door. You know the price has been paid. You say we're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in Kansas anymore.
But no, that song, my previous drummer had said, you need to do something in the vein of that's bluesy, like Can't Let the Devil Win. I said, all right. So I sat down. First thing I played was. So I said, okay, well, there's the bones of it. And then that song came together really quick too. Whole point being is, the devil gets into your life and says he's taken everything and broken every dream. He puts your heart on the line and your soul's on a string. But we're believers. We're saved by the grace of God and the blood of Jesus Christ.
Yep.
You're not in Kansas anymore. Grow up, Buttercup. Move on. Walk in faith, walk strong, walk in the word of God, and you don't got anything to worry about. So that's what that song is really about.
Yeah, I put slow groove rocker with big chorus and a killer lead guitar.
Thank you. Thank you. Stole all those licks from Tony and Dennis.
So track 8 is Lonely Bones. I put slow groove rocker. Guitars slowly get added as the song goes on with a haunting chorus.
That's probably the best amalgamation of verbs you can use for that song, I think. The whole idea of that song, I know a lot of people. I mean, I'm not a shy person by any stretch like I was when I was a kid, and I know people from all walks of life. People that go through some things that maybe I never had to go through, but it still hurts my heart when I hear about it, or people you pray for. In this particular thing, I never knew anyone named Laney, but it sang well. And if John Elefante ever taught anyone that's ever worked with him anything, if you're going to write something, you can't use the lyric unless it sings well. That's a lesson learned. He told me once, I never forgot it, and I still live by that. If it sings well, you could say something like iconic or bionic or cryonic. If it sings well within the melody that you've got and the phrasing that you're using, then go for it. Laney was the first thing that came out of my mouth. Laney's got a secret. And I immediately was like, oh, I got that. I was originally thinking kind of in a Def Leppard type of mode, but there was a kid that I knew that always had the saddest look on her face. And I always thought, oh, I don't know what that kid goes through. But if you read the lyrics to the song, it talks about Laney's got a problem. Mommy says she's been a very naughty girl. Cigarette burns on her skin, hidden like the pain within. It's so lonely. This is a kid that's living in a dark world. And, it talks about, I think by the second verse or the third verse, she's talking about, the guy on the cross is the one that got her through it. That's how she was able to live through that particular situation, is a relationship with Jesus, and that song to me is probably one of the most special songs on this album. I love that song,
Yeah.
Because the best line on it says you shouldn't have to pay with flesh and blood, because no adult should ever go through any kind of abuse emotionally or physically. I had a previous band member that had heard the song and said, I don't know if you sing about that to Christians. And I'm like, dude, you can sing anything within the body of Christ, because everything matters. You can't discount anything. Anything that someone's gone through, whether it's alcoholism, suicide, whatever, anything that someone's faced with, decisions they make or people they've been involved with. If you have this gift and this ability to write songs and you're not going to use it as a platform, and I'm not talking about like the television stars that come on and tell us how we should think. I don't believe in that kind of stuff at all. But I think you should share your feelings or your prayers or your heart on things that matter to you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's where the song came from. It wasn't really coming from scripture so much as it is of, even in the darkest place, Christ can find you,
Yep, absolutely.
So
track 9, we have "And We All Fall Down." It put upbeat, great chorus.
And we all fall down, but we get right back on the ground. We are one, we are strong, we know just where we belong. Full of fire, beneath the mire. We just put our feet on solid ground.
that song, there's a band that I really liked called Black Veil Brides. And that's kind of a tip of my hat to the style of pop anthems they would put together. I really liked the energy of that band. And I had taken my daughters to see them play once, actually 3 times, but this particular time that I came back, the next day I sat down and I guess their rhythms were kind of in my head. So I sat down and I started playing. And originally that song had a different verse. But just before I sent it to the guys, I said, that verse hasn't hit me enough. I went home for lunch one day, sat down, pulled up the keyboards. That's the first thing I played, which most of my songwriting, that's how it is. First thing I play, that's what I run with.
Wow.
If I like it, if I respond to it,
Yeah,
if it evokes something in me, it might evoke something in you. But that song, I always thought, when and if we get signed by a major label and we can go out and we can tour and promote this stuff, I want to see a whole body of kids just out there going, and we're all the same. We all sin and fall short of the glory of God. So that's what that song's about. I had one reviewer say, the only letdown on this album for me is, and we all fall down, because it sounds like it should be played at like a youth Christian rally. And I thought, exactly.
Yeah, and
You were saying?
that's
Why
cool.
wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't we want something like that, So Lucid.
10, track 10. Mid-pace. I put mid-pace rocker, catchy chorus.
If you feel it and believe it, tell the world the way it sees it. We can be lucid. It's the reason that we sing. Yeah, it's in the darkness and the light, in between the wrong and right. Inside a world we can say, you and me, we can be lucid.
Yeah. Lucid to me is very much like a Cheap Trick meets Electric Light Orchestra. kind of thing. I'm really into the Beatles chords, and you can hear a little bit of Woman in the verses by John Lennon. I mean, it wasn't his progression. That progression has been used by 1,000 different songs, but I was playing it one day and I was just like, not the song Woman, but I was playing that dun 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 dun, and it leads to somewhere. Those are the kind of chords John Elefante would come up with all the time. And I was like, yeah, I like where this is going. But the message about being lucid is, if you feel it and believe it, show the world the way he sees it, we can be lucid. We lead by example. We got to carry around the light of the Lord, and we got to be clear to speak to these folks. Right now, this song starts out with some guy finding a note. I found the note you left upon your door. It says you didn't think you could take it anymore. Well, this guy decides, well, let me learn you something. I'm here for you. And he starts talking to his buddy, and that's kind of the whole vibe of what I was going for, was like, as Christians and believers, we should be lucid. We could be lucid. Why aren't we? We need to speak clearly. There's a little line at the end that unfortunately you can't really, because the music's going on, you can't really hear what's been said, because the best we can do for these young people is be there, speak clearly, and pray. That's the best we can offer for somebody else. But yeah, I like the message of the song, and I totally love the feel of the music. And if we do play live, that's gonna be one of the ones that I can't wait to do. That and Creep. So
let's see, track 11, Come to Me. I put 80s synthesizer sounds really cool. Background vocals sound great.
yeah,
You're really
yeah,
cool.
that's probably the DNA of John Elefante still stuck in my craw. So that's the kind of song that I think John would have wrote for us. And it really started out with just a keyboard riff. I was just playing something. I liked the sound of it. And so I was fleshing out the chords, and the words just landed on me. Come to me and let your heart believe. There was just all these nice little phrases that were popping down, and I was typing them down as quick as I could get them. It was probably written in 10 minutes. I think the funnest part about it is the blues solo at the end. I get a little wacky on some things, but it was a really good progression to play over. Just like words have to sing well, not all chord progressions lend themselves to a cool lead, but when they're cool and you're just shredding, you can go anywhere with them. Come to Me, that part of it was a lot of fun. I played that solo on my Strat. Now I have, if you've seen any of my pictures online or Facebook, I got a lot of guitars. I've probably got right now 12 or 13 I'm clocking in at, and they're all beasts. I mean, my wife buys me a lot of really, really nice pieces of instruments. This next album, you're going to hear a lot more Les Paul than anything. The one you're looking at right now is a lot of Ibanez's, my Strat, no Les Pauls at all. But my Ibanez's, I think I use mostly for the leads, but not on Come to Me. On Come to Me, that's all my Strat. So different tone monster. Whereas you could go back to Lucid, and I'm shredding on one of my three Ibanez's, right? And but yeah, Come to Me, great tune to write, great tune to play. Here's the trick on Come to Me for the budding songwriters out there. usually to build tension in a song. If you've ever heard a Barry Manilow song, he modulates like 10 times in a song because every time you go up in key, it builds tension, right? I don't know if it was a mistake, but when I was writing Come to Me, I went down a whole step instead of going up. And I thought, wait a minute. I just went down and the tension just fell out. Well, the first day because I'll record these and then I'll take them to work with me the next day. And on the way there, I'll listen to them and critique them and go, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
So I rarely have to change anything. I have a ballad right now that I got to change the middle section on, but everything else about it, I love about it. But on this song, I thought, well, it's going down in key and I'm losing some of that power. How can I fix it? So then I thought, keyboard part. So when it goes, come, when you hear that, I was thinking of Street of Dreams by Rainbow.
Yeah.
I thought I always loved that modulated arpeggio kind of thing, right? So once I came up with that, I had my tension back because I had something up here in the higher register that was offsetting it.
Right.
So musically, that was a song lesson for me because I had to find a way to, if you're going to go down in pitch for a chorus, your chorus is supposed to be the biggest part of the song.
Right.
So the only way I was able to salvage that is go and find a keyboard part that was higher up in register than, the low key that I was playing in. So that was a kind of a cool lesson. But yeah, I really like that song and it's turned out to be a fan favorite. So
Yeah. Cool.
Almost didn't make it though.
So another one of the best songs in my opinion is track 12, Love Automatic. I think I said in my review, if Bon Jovi had sung this song, it would have been a #1 radio hit.
You did say that. Yeah, you did.
And your vocals do sound similar to Bon Jovi again, which is a compliment.
I can't help it. For one, I'm a huge fan. I love Bon Jovi. I mean, I listen to him all the time. And if I had to say who do I sound the most like, it's a combination between Bon Jovi and a guy named Oni Logan who sings for Lynch Mob.
Oni, yeah.
Who I also love him. I wish I sounded like Chris Cornell, but I don't. But phrasing wise, Bon Jovi's right there in my wheelhouse.
All I can say is we got to be on love automatic. Hold out a hand, share a little magic. Tune out the noise, turn off the static. We've got to be on love automatic. Say yeah, 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 yeah. Everybody say yeah, 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 yeah.
So it's there is a story on this song though, Jeremy, that when we were finishing the album, I bounced every idea off my wife, and then I'll talk to the guys. Me and Malcolm and John speak literally every day. Sometimes it's just with our stupid sense of humor, so we'll just sit there and crack each other up. But we're always talking. We're always running ideas by and stuff like that, Or I'm sending them, hey, what do you think of the artwork? Hey, what do you think of this? Hey, here's something. Hey, guys, give me a list of this. So we're always, even though we're not on the road working, we're working on this all the time. It's what we want to do. It's where our hearts are. And I felt like starting, with songs like Creep, with songs like You're Not in Kansas Anymore, Evie's Little Garden, we had a lot of darkness. Now, musically, one thing about a music fan is they know the difference between happy and sad chords. They don't know how to play them, but they can hear them. They can feel them.
Yeah.
Right. So a minor chord has this darkness or a purple or a black, if you're looking at it in terms of colors, whereas a major chord sounds happy and forgiving and love. So pink, pastels, stuff like that. So the marriage of putting major and minor chords together helps you get scenes, right? So you get a little bit of darkness and then some sun comes out in the chorus and you can take it back down dark a little bit. You can combine them both on a solo section or something like that. Those of us that write songs, we write in those colors. We write in those majors and minors and then major sevens and minor sevens, major 7/5 sometimes. You never know, right? Well, the problem I had with the lineup of the songs in the order that we had them was I was telling my wife, we're driving back from somewhere and I said, I'm missing a major key song that's an anthem. She goes, you know what? I knew something was missing, but I don't know how to put my finger on it because I don't play music. And I said, I never ever want to end an album on a negative note. I always want to leave on a positive note. I said, so I need to come up with something. So we're driving along. About 3 minutes later, I go, I've got it. I got the whole chorus in my head. And she goes, what is it? And I go, we've got to be on love automatic. She goes, what'd you say? And I go, love automatic. We we should, as Christians, not have to think about what kind of mood we're going to be in. We should love our neighbor as ourselves. We should love our brother because he needs us. We should love our kids because we should be on love automatic. She goes, that's awesome. So I wrote it in my head in about 30 seconds. I went home the next day and I recorded it, and that's how that song came about.
It's crazy.
So, yeah.
That's definitely a talent. And I'm glad that you're being more prolific now, releasing material.
I'm trying. Luke Easter just told me that. You're the first person that ever told me I was prolific. Luke Easter last week. He goes, dude, you're a prolific songwriter. I'm going, what's that mean? But, I appreciated that. And I appreciate you saying that as well.
And what's the status of the new Gravedigger? What's the status of that? How far?
It's the same exact problem. We're 11 songs recorded, and I'm going, guys, I need a positive song to top it off. So there's a song right now. The working title of it is 2021, about how we all made it through these last 2 years. We made it through everything certain people told us to do. We made it through everything that people feared, all the hardships all of us have seen. And I'm trying to close it out with a message about, at least we're still here. We're still alive. Thank God we survived 2021.
Yeah.
So but it's very much in the vein of Love Automatic, a little bit different feel, but very Bon Jovi. I will tell you that.
Nice.
So thank you, Bon Jovi, for always saving the day on positive songs. Right. As far as the status of Gravedigger, JR will start mixing it within the month. So this is right
all the
now.
parts are recorded with all the band members?
Their parts are, Malcolm's finishing up 2 today. The only one that John hasn't played on is the last song, because there's one song I moved forward. It's called We Could Be Heroes. I'm moving that to the next project with the Brave. A great song, but tempo wise, it's a lot similar to some of the other songs we got. So as a producer, when I think about the arrangement of our album,
yep,
I always think of how would I want an album to start and how do I want it to end?
Mm-hmm.
And I never, ever want the bookends to be the only thing I care about a bookcase. Every story inside has got to be an enjoyable read.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone should be able to pick up a book and know where it's at, pull it down, enjoy it, and put it back where it goes, and enjoy the entire experience. That's how we set out to do Evie's, and Gravedigger is going to be no different. There's going to be a lot of, we don't just write down a piece of paper with crayon and go, put it in that order. We don't care. No, we listen to it relentlessly until we know we've got the right flow of tracks. So I think of tempo. I don't want, and I learned this from John and Dino. I don't want the same tempo next to each other. I don't want a song in the same key next to each other. They didn't say that. As a matter of fact, all together now, and If That Ain't Love, E, they bounce back and forth between A and E. I'm not like that. Because I'm a guitar player, I have to have different, to help write the scenes of a movie, you got to have different lighting, right? Well, music's the same kind of way. I need different tempos, I need different keys, and different vibes. Like I wouldn't put 2 bluesy songs next to each other. I wouldn't put 2 anthems next to each other. So there's a lot of analyzing between Malcolm, John, and myself, and my wife, Janet. We listened to it to see how the flow goes. We took a trip to Ventura last week, and Janet's heard every one of these songs, and she loves them all. If you loved Evie's Little Garden, bro, you're going to love Gravedigger. Nice. Gravedigger itself is pretty cool, but I got another song that I just wrote that I think is John's favorite, and it's called The Undertaker. And it talks about this undertaker that drives a drop-top Cadillac, but every day when he goes to work, he pulls a toe tag from the rack to figure out who he's going to be preparing for a burial. But as he's working on them, he tries to make them their last show here on earth look great. And he wonders if they knew the Lord. And he wonders, is he going to see them in paradise? So he's praying over these bodies as he's, I know maybe that's a little morbid. Maybe I watched a mafia movie or something. I don't know. But it's a great song. Malcolm's favorite is called Eternal, which is a really beautiful, and it's me on acoustic guitar, which you hadn't heard a lot of before, but that's really one of my main instruments is finger picking and acoustic guitar kind of thing. The flow of this album is going to be, it'll be different than Evie's, but the diversity we're always going to be like that. We're always going to be diverse because I can't seem to write the same type of song in a row. It's not my thing. I got to be inspired and encouraged. And I couldn't write, if I was in the knack, I couldn't write my Sharona over and over. I couldn't do it. I'd be bored after the first, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what I appreciated so much about Miracle Mile was it was diverse. It was
Right.
different places, you know. So Striper does that. That's what I do. I like to keep things. I think the difference for the Brave is my voice can lend itself to different kinds of vibes, I guess. You know, if it's bluesy stuff, like if I was cutting the Killing Floor, that'd be a piece of cake for me because it's right in my range. The phrasing is where I'm comfortable, like White Snake-ish.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I don't think I even said in my review. I think your vocals are great.
Oh, thank you.
I was very surprised. I'm like, why wasn't he singing the whole time? And every record.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. I had to go, who's singing on this? I was very impressed, Stayce.
Well, I appreciate that, but I will tell you the reason I never sang is there were always better singers around me. So I embraced that. I never ever thought about singing ever. I knew I could, but I'm like, yeah, we got Randy, we got James, we don't need me.
You know, I play guitar.
Yeah. That's what all I wanted to do is play guitar. But then here I am alone
Now
at
you
this
got-
age. I'm
yeah.
going, and so I'm showing Freddie some of these demos. He goes, dude, you're an idiot. Why aren't you singing these? And I'm like, well, first off, let's get back to that idiot comment. No, we were cool.
I want to give you probably something you don't get praised on enough is your voice on this record. So
Oh, thank you, man. I really
I just
appreciate
want
that.
to give you a compliment on that. So
Well, and I receive it wholeheartedly. I believe me. A lot of people have asked, well, why didn't you do this before? And I go, it wasn't for me at the time,
Right.
You know. But now it very much is. We released a Christmas song at Christmas time called "Christmas Every Day," and Kent, one of the 312 guys, goes, "Dude, why didn't you call it Christmas Eve? Because that's Eve." And I go,
Christmas Eve.
I didn't even. Here I am, the creative genius, and I'm going, why didn't I see that? So now we may actually call the album, as a result of what Kent said, we may
Eve.
actually call the album Christmas Eve with Evie on the cover.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I saw the interview. Kent, those guys are great. So
really good, yeah.
they inspired me to do this show, do the interviews.
See, again,
Talk
you
with
don't know
Kent.
who it affects, right?
Super great guy, and so, like, because I know you already did an interview with them, and so I'm going to ask you questions that they didn't. I want to compliment their show if it is
Yeah.
the same guest.
Yeah.
My goal, because
And I see you guys leaving messages for each other too. So I mean, it's cool that there's a camaraderie there. You know, and
Yes.
you guys need to include Joel in this too, because he's out there, he's working the beat too. He's introduced me to some people that I never knew.
Yeah, see, I don't know, Joel. Now, does he just do audio podcasts? It's not video.
He does these Zoom things like this. Let me see. I think his last name
Okay.
is Walker. He's just a good, solid guy. His goal is it's Joel Walker. He's got a podcast called Imaginary Music on
I've seen it
Apple.
on Facebook.
Yeah, it's really and it's cool. And you guys are all, you know, I think if all three of you were sitting alone, you're going, well, what can I do different? You're different people. No one's ever gonna. No, maybe everyone's gonna ask me, how'd you get signed, or maybe everyone's
Right,
gonna
right.
say, what was it like working with John and Dino? But there's a billion different things that happen on a daily basis. You know, if I could interview Elvis or John Lennon or Paul McCartney, man, I would have a billion different things to ask because there's so much that you want to know, right? It's just like your podcast is going to be, you know, sharing great stuff with us as fans, because you bring up people that I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I forgot all about that band. That's killer. You know,
That's what I try to do on my show is to bring in fans and say, hey, maybe you missed this one, just like I missed you guys, and now I'm interviewing you.
yeah.
You guys are great. I'm like, wow, you know.
Well, I feel the same way about you, man. I mean, I love this renaissance that's happening here with these podcasts and reigniting all these bands that we all love so much, you know?
Yeah.
And the best part about Gravedigger, back to your original question, is Evie's Little Garden. I jokingly tell people, I go, that was just us clearing our throat. Now we've got a rhythm down.
It was a warm-up.
Well, it wasn't work, and no disrespect. That was a work of love. We loved working on Evie's Little Garden. But now that we've got a process that works,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we're not the only people that are trying to do a transatlantic record. Larry's dealing with Fear Not, and they're all over the map too in different places. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but if you can get the right system down and you get the right rotation and the right reps in, and people get used to what they can expect to get, what they got to cut to, we have it down to a science at this point. So we could literally, if we get picked up by, and if we do take a record deal, which we've been offered some, but it's not the right fit. We have to be able to go out and tour with support. We won't do it independently or by ourselves.
Right.
If it's not in the cards, that's fine. We're still going to keep sharing great music with you guys. Gravedigger will be a lot more, I think. First off, I'll be the first Brave singer that's ever done 2 records. There hasn't been, James only did 1, Randy only did 1, Amanda did 1.
Right.
I'll be the first guy with a repeat performance. And the good news is, since I didn't blow my voice out from singing for 30 years, I'm getting better and better.
Nice.
I think I am. I mean, I'm putting the work in, but my breadth, I guess, is my influences are getting bigger, and I'm writing now for the first time. I'm writing songs for me.
Yeah.
I never did that. I mean, I didn't write Evie's for me, but when it came along, that had to be me. I'm like, okay, I can do this. So yeah, John's a lot more comfortable. Malcolm's a lot more comfortable in their roles, and their roles are the same as me. I do the best I can do with what I'm good at. They do the best they can do with what they're good at. But even though I produce, I rarely have to send anything back because we're all top shelf musicians. We don't, we're not learning our first blues scale, right? If you were a guitar player and you wanted to talk modes, I could do it all day. It's what I studied on when I was a kid. It's what Tony did. It's what Dennis did. It's what Michael did. We all put in our time, which is why we can all play.
Right.
But yeah, Gravedigger is going to be a heck of a fun album. It should come out, I would say, mid to late summer. It'll be a little later than Evie's because we got started a little later. And I got to finish up quickly so I can do me and Larry's project and get on my Christmas album with the Braves. So
yeah, so when the new record comes out, I'll definitely have you on, and we can do a little promo for that too.
You'll have it in advance, and you'll definitely see yourself in the liner notes. So definitely be looking for that.
That'd be really cool.
That's for sure, no doubt.
So where can fans get the Brave music online?
There's a couple of places. The best place to get it from is our own website at thebravemusic.com. It's all one word, thebravemusic.com. I know eoniumrecords.com just picked up 200 copies that they're selling on their website. We've got distribution in a couple places overseas in Europe. I don't know the names of the places, but if you search for Evie's Little Garden, you can find it. You can also download it from iTunes. You can download it from any digital streaming service. It's on Spotify.
Okay.
Anything we have is up. Rise, I believe, is even on Spotify. I don't think it's on Apple Music anymore. And when I sell out of those, they'll probably just be a collector's, because I don't think I'm going to reissue it. I own all these songs, so Evie's, I can't keep them on the show. I can't keep them in stock. I keep whatever reorder them.
That's a great problem.
That's a good problem to have, man. It's a really good one. But yeah, the best place is thebravemusic.com, and we also have a Facebook, the Brave Music site. You can check us out. But if you go to thebravemusic.com, you can get to our Twitter feed, you can get to our Facebook, and you can communicate with us if you need to. So, but you can buy everything. You can buy Brave merch there, the whole nine. So
nice. All right, Stayce, I think we'll call it here. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and
my pleasure. A lot of fun.
Yeah, reliving some old memories and some old friends and
absolutely
music and the good old days.
The good old days. I miss them.
But
we got to bring it back.
We got a lot to look forward to in the future, though, with Gravedigger.
Absolutely.
All right, Stayce, thanks for being on the show. Have a great night.
All right, brother. Thank you so much.
See ya. If you made it this far, you are a legend. Thanks for watching the show, and I want to thank Stayce Roberts for taking the time and answering some questions. A lot of people have already shut the video off because they don't want to watch the outro. You are going to be rewarded. We're going to hear some clips of the brand new Gravedigger record that's going to be coming out hopefully this year by the Brave. Bear in mind that these are demos, these are not final cuts or mixes. You are rewarded for being a real fan. Check them out.
Like the world's going crazy, the lines are drawn and the definition's getting easy. Feels like a movie that we're living in, yeah. But I'm just watching the world we're living in. I won't sit on the side. to believe in the light again. Yeah, it's a strange new world we're living in. You're chasing daylight, you're not thinking straight, you're like a runaway with no one to blame. You're feeling all alone with nobody near. You're crying out tonight, your heart full of fear. I knew you, I know how you feel. What happened to you and all that was real? You built a dark wall around your heart, but now it's time for me to tear it apart. Gonna tear your temples down, I'll drop 'em brick by brick all over the ground. And when I throw your shackles down, I'll let the whole world hear the sound and let the walls come down. Where the grave digger goes, whoa, yeah, yeah, got a hammer, got a stone, got just enough room to carve your name on. Don't matter where you're from, you better be ready when the grave digger comes. You're gonna drop them bodies in a 6x4, and it really don't matter if it's seen you before. Got a list that he gives with a million names.